What's up, everybody? Coach John back here on a pretty nasty day doing a walk and talk. But hey, at least the streets aren't so icy I can't walk, finally. Today we're going to talk about some of the most common reasons why people can't lose weight. More precisely, why people think they can't lose weight, what they're doing wrong, and how they can fix it. Now, first off, I gotta say, a lot of these things involve errors in our judgment or perception. I'm not saying you're screwing up and you're the only one and you need to do better. These things happen because of human biases. It's not that you're the one person screwing this up. Everyone does it at some point, especially if you're on a weight loss journey of any length. So the first one is you're not being real with yourself whatsoever. Sadly, this is an incredibly common thing to encounter when you put weight loss coach in the bio of your social media. A lot of people tell you, I'm in a calorie deficit and I can't lose weight. And it's like, well, are you in a calorie deficit every day? And they're like, well, no. Okay. So what happens when we restrict calories on some days, but then kind of use other days as a release valve or a whatever, or we just check out? And you ever watch House? You know that TV show about the doctor? And the motto was everybody lies. It's like, come on, man. If you've ever been to the doctor and they're like, so how much do you drink? And you're like, oh, I barely touch the stuff. Nobody likes to feel judged or whatever. And so sometimes we aren't totally honest with other people we don't know. Sometimes even with the people who it would really behoove us to be very honest with. If you don't know already, this is a safe space where anything you're dealing with is something that I'm going to have compassion for because I probably dealt with it myself. But that being said, people are not honest with themselves, let alone their coach or the people they're reaching out to for diet advice. It's sad, but it's honestly very understandable. We've all done it. You know, sometimes my kids lie to me. Why? And honestly, the one that lies to me the most about the biggest fibs is by far the more obedient child. I don't know, we all get our thrills how we get our thrills. So, number one, you're probably not being honest with yourself about the amount of food you're eating, and you know it deep down. But we're not aware of these things because we hide our awareness from ourselves. We're afraid to see what we do on a regular basis. But you remind yourself that seeing these things fully requires you to see them without judgment. And ultimately, that's not a cause for pain. It's the beginning of compassion. It's the antidote. Next, we deal with another human bias, our inability to track things day to day. Now, this doesn't just happen with calories. It can happen with your energy expenditure. It can happen with how many red cars you passed, how many people you shook hands with. We're just not very good at tracking exact numbers of things that we have done. Partially has to do with the fact that we're very good at doing automated tasks. I've talked in recent videos about the activity of the basal ganglia and our fight or flight centers, which together allow us and cause us to do a ton of highly technical tasks without really thinking about them. And this is part of what makes us awesome as a species because it necessitates far less awareness, which means when we need to increase our awareness, we sometimes really struggle to do so because we're so used to flying on autopilot. So if you know you're not going on weekly or bi-weekly binges or massive increases in calories, and you really are making a good faith effort, but you're kind of estimating your calorie counts, or you're not tracking every meal and estimating some, you definitely benefit from slowing down, talking yourself through some of your behaviors, because when you're talking yourself through these things, literally just talking to yourself as you make your meal, it literally reroutes your thought patterns through your frontal cortex, which is where your verbal center is. And that's one way that you can kind of bring these processes into the light a little bit more. This is why journaling is such an effective thing for all kinds of emotional issues, because it forces you to draw them through your verbal centers, whether you're talking to a therapist or just journaling to yourself. This is why we always encourage people to open up, share your feelings, because by translating your feelings into words, we actually give our conscious mind access to them, which is obviously quite helpful. So, improve our tracking, slow down, be a little bit more careful with it. And remember that increasing your tracking doesn't have to be a permanent thing. A lot of times people resist being super drilled down in their tracking because they don't want to live that way the rest of their life. You don't have to. If you go through periods of really precise tracking, it will for a time create a new habit. And then if you track a little bit less precisely, your innate level of precision will be sharper and will slowly decline over time, at which point you can repeat the process and sort of sharpen your tools again. Number 3, John, I'm definitely tracking my calories. I'm being good. I'm not screwing around and binging. Honestly, I just can't lose weight. Okay, how do you know you can't lose weight? Show me the scale data. Well, I have the data, but I only started weighing myself 4 days ago. This is an issue fundamentally of patience. We need to let the process play out a bit more. But maybe you've gone a week or two and the scale hasn't moved much. Okay, well, what's much? Do the math. Are you tracking by discrete daily values, or are you taking running averages? I highly suggest you go by running averages. I see this all the time with clients. They're getting discouraged because that week they haven't quote unquote lost any weight. From Friday last to Friday this, the scale hasn't changed between those 2 Fridays. However, the total picture, which we see in the 7-day running average, shows that they have lost 1.5 pounds this week. Any 2 discrete values measured against each other do not give you a very accurate picture. And this is why the anti-scale advocates who tell people that it's insane to weigh yourself every day and that it's much nicer to yourself to weigh yourself periodically, they don't understand mathematically what they're telling people and how it's not the answer. It's just a recipe for further despair. So that aside, John, I tracked my weights just like you say, and it's literally been 1.5 weeks, going on 2 weeks, and I really haven't lost much. We're talking 0.5 pound maybe in the last 1.5 weeks. Okay, are you happy about that? No. When you start to notice that even your weekly average isn't going down, naturally, you're not happy about that. You're also in a caloric deficit, which is somewhat stressful on your body. Maybe you're going through other life stresses. And then on top of it, you're not losing weight anymore. It was going so great before this. And every day you get on the scale hoping that finally that whoosh effect kicks in and all the water weight just dumps out and suddenly the scale gives you the progress that you feel like you deserve. I'm describing many a time that I stepped on the scale with those exact intentions and expectations. And every day that it holds on to that water one more day, you get a little bit more susceptible to some pretty crazy thoughts like, I just can't lose weight. This isn't working. I need to go on a crash diet. I need to go work out for an hour straight. I'm never going to make it to my end goal. Oh my gosh, I was the king of this. If there was a martial art just devoted to kicking yourself in the groin, I would have a black belt, 10th degree. And maybe that's why I'm here teaching this stuff. Because if I could stop doing that, anyone can. Point is, the problem is most likely stress related. Stress and sleep go hand in hand. If you're not sleeping well, you cannot expect your stress levels to do anything but rise. You ever go on like a really long hike and then notice that you gain weight the next day, even though you thought, gee, all that effort, all those calories I burned, I probably am going to lose weight. Well, the stress of a huge spike in activity will cause your body to hold on to water weight as part of its repair and recovery process. Because exercise, it's a positive stress, it's a hermetic stress is what we call it, but it's still a stress. And if you're sleep deprived, which is not a hermetic stress, it's just crappy, that can cause your body to continue to hold on to water too. A lot of times, just when a client has me convinced that maybe we need to reduce their calories or increase their activity, they finally hit that switch on their stress. They get that good night's sleep. They give themselves room to be patient and let the process be a process. They ground themselves in the truth that they are the prime mover of their weight loss and that it's not dependent on the outcome. The outcome is naturally going to flow out of them connecting to their true selves over time, them connecting to their values. And once they kind of just chill out, boom, scale drops. I mean, I think I had a client last week drop like 8 pounds in a day or something crazy like that. This stuff is real. And you got to remember, the bigger you are, the more water your body can hold. Moving on. There are other reasons, but I want to talk about one of the most difficult to deal with. One of the ones that people are the most unaware of. A lot of people who come to me and join the group and things like that, subscribe to the channel, they're new to weight loss. They really have never figured it out. They don't really know how to do it, even on a basic level. They don't know how to get started. Then we have a lot of people who are chronic dieters. They've been at this for 20 years. Sometimes their parents put them on a diet when they were kids, or they've voluntarily started dieting when they were kids. And because of the mindsets that are instilled in us around weight loss, which are mostly trash and ultimately self-defeating, they haven't experienced long-term sustainable success. And they're used to setting up their diets to fail on a technical sense or in a self-defeating sense, or in a stress-related sense when they're basically setting up a diet that's destined to burn out for any individual, no matter how strong they are. A lot of times these folks are dogged in their attempts. So they'll over diet, binge, but then they get right back on it. And this sometimes can be the worst thing for you. It's punishing in the long term to stay on a really restrictive caloric deficit. So forget about the mental and emotional stress that can cause. It can be hard on your body. For people who've been in a sustained deficit for a really long time, what you have to understand is that the body adapts. This is the mechanism of weight loss. We reduce caloric intake. The body adapts to that new intake by shedding body mass so it can burn fewer calories and create homeostasis. It's always looking to balance the budget. And this is why if we're not careful, our body will respond to our caloric deficits by shedding lean mass. So if you're dieted down to the lowest calories you can handle, hey, if you're still sedentary, maybe just by raising activity, you can totally get the ball rolling again. But if you're truly maxed out and getting nowhere, it might mean that you've wrung all the weight loss you can out of your current protocol based on how you set it up. I have previous videos with some ideas on how to address over dieting. Not only does prolonged caloric deficit risk our lean mass, which is metabolically active, i.e. it burns calories, and if we lose it, our body just doesn't need as many calories during the day. So we don't burn as much fat when we're in a deficit. Also, in a prolonged deficit, our hormones get out of balance. It's harder to regulate sleep and appetite. Your mind has a way of sneaking calories under your notice. I've seen it happen with myself. And one of the most effective tools your body has, and it's even harder for you to notice, is your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This usually accounts for far more calories in the day than you burn exercising, even if you're an avid exerciser. This is all the activity you do in the day outside of traditional exercise. Fidgeting, walking around, walking to the kitchen. All these little 1s and 2s and 3s and 10s add up. And apart from your basal metabolic rate, this is the biggest factor in your daily caloric rate. So get your step counter out. Make sure you have one that goes on your wrist. A cheap one is fine. And even if it doesn't track your steps that accurately, if it counts steps even when you're waving your hand around, that's fine, because we're trying to use this thing as a proxy for total non-exercise activity. So you can raise your activity, you can lower your calories, you can play around with intermittent fasting strategies, you can mess around with your macros, you can improve your sleep, your stress, you can increase your non-exercise activity thermogenesis somewhat. But at the end of the day, if you've been dieting for months and months and months, and you're not really getting out what you're putting in, it's probably time to take a break. A diet break is when you go back to maintenance calories. And if you've been dieting for a while, it may not be as high as what you think. It may take some trial and error, but you find that point where, yeah, you gain back a little bit of water weight, a few pounds, but after that, the scale stays flat. And you stick with that maintenance level of calories for weeks, maybe months, until you give your body systems a chance to reset and resensitize to your weight loss efforts. Obviously, people don't want to hear this one, but I'm telling you, it's like taking your car in for an oil change. It's nobody's favorite way to spend an afternoon, but it's going to save you time and money in the long run. If you're really not making progress, then what's it going to hurt? Ultimately, this process isn't just about losing weight. It's about losing the weight easily and more sustainably because we're putting ourselves first. And when you take a time at maintenance, you may find that you recover better from exercise, you have more stamina for exercise. It's a great time to really get in better shape. Shore up the progress you've made by building muscle or rebuilding what you've lost, so that when you go back into your weight loss program, you'll be able to burn more calories per day. So a bit of a ramble there, long video, longer than I intended. Geez, this is gonna take forever to edit. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope this gives you some ideas for how to keep your weight loss moving forward. Thanks for watching. If you're looking for no-cost support, you can check out the Facebook group, Lose Weight with John. Subscribe, like this video, I'd really appreciate it. Ask me any questions you have in the comments below. We're gonna start a March weight loss challenge soon, so email me at johnoakescoaching@gmail.com if you're interested in that, or watch for a post in the Facebook group. See you in the next video.